Good evening, guys. All right, it is Sunday, Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all you fellow fathers out there. Just another day for me, I guess, but whatever the case. Also, let's not talk about my Dodgers. They did not look good today or yesterday. Got their butts kicked. Anyway, so just in case you guys can't really see much of it anyway. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We are here to talk about a question that was asked earlier in the week by a member of the TSP group. Wanted to know about why the Dow Jones Industrial Average moved in one direction while the S&P 500 and other indexes moved in a different direction earlier at one point this time this week. Okay, so there is a reason for it, and I'm going to get into the detail of it here. I'm also going to go talk about, for those of you guys who are TSP participants, this is a very common myth that the S Fund follows the Dow Jones Industrial Average. No, it does not. I'm going to explain that more in detail when we get to it here, but just know that S Fund does not follow the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But we do, and I'm going to tell you right up front that I do not care the least bit about the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I think it's a bastardized index, if you will. I don't, there aren't any real funds that even follow the DJIA. There may be a few out there you can find, but they're few and far between. But otherwise, and really all the DJIA stocks are also in the S&P 500, which TSP S Fund follows. So why do you care about the Dow Jones Industrial Average? I don't personally. It's not been the go-to benchmark for professional investors since 1988, or I think that was what year it was. So the news media covers it more than anything because it's, for some reason, seems to be the more well-known and popular one to watch. I pay more attention to the S&P 500 personally, though. But let's get into little details about why did the DJIA go in one direction and S&P 500 went the other earlier this week, at least on one of the days. I don't pay attention to what the Dow Jones does on any given day. So I couldn't tell you from one day to the next what direction it went in relation to the S&P. All right, let's start with the DJIA stocks. Here they are right here, all 30 of them. Here's the problem with the DJIA. It is a price-weighted index, not a market cap-weighted index. So the stocks with the highest share prices actually have the most influence on the performance of the DJIA. And as you see here, I have them sorted in terms of price right here, if I can get this to cooperate. Okay. So you see Goldman Sachs is the heaviest hitter in the Dow Jones. Caterpillar would be next, followed by United Health Group, and then Microsoft and American Express. Okay, so looking at just these five, only one of these has $1 trillion market cap, and that would be Microsoft. And even Microsoft is not the biggest in the index. As you see here, NVIDIA has a $5.1 trillion market cap now. That is up there. Remember, it seemed like it was only a year or two ago, whatever it was, when there weren't any companies with $1 trillion market caps. Now you got NVIDIA with the $5.1 trillion. And then Apple here with $4.376 trillion. And Microsoft with $2.818 and Amazon at $2.628. Okay, so considering that, those five with $1 trillion plus market caps are very heavy hitters in the S&P 500, not so much in the Dow Jones. As you see here, their share prices are not so high, especially with NVIDIA, only $210 share price. Amazon, they did here's part of the problem too. Market cap does not change when you do a stock split. Basically, so like when Amazon did if I remember right, a 4 or 5 to 1 split, or no, was it 7 to 1? Something along that line split a few years ago, a couple of years ago, whatever it was, wasn't too far back. And maybe I'm mixing them up with Apple, but we'll just say maybe it was Apple. Okay, so one of them had like about a $700 share price at one point in time. And then they did a stock split. Their stock split dropped from the stock split from 7 to 1 basically dropped their share price from over 700 down to 100, or just over 100. I want to say that's Apple. Okay, that does not change their market cap. What you end up doing is you have 7 times as many shares of a stock with a share price that is 1/7 what it was before. So, and that's what market cap is a measure of how many shares are available for public trading multiplied by its share price. So if you have a billion shares before a 7 to 1 split, for available for public and a $700 price tag, then you have a $700 billion market cap. And that one, basically what ends up after the split, you end up with 7 billion shares instead of 1 billion. And now you only have a $100 share price instead of 700. Okay, so that's what this is kind of an important detail for you guys to understand with market cap, because the S&P 500 is it is a market cap weighted index, as are most other stock indexes. Dow Jones is not. It is price weighted. So if a company that's in this index really wanted to have more influence on it, like let's just say Nike down here at the bottom with the influence, only a $45 share price, and they appear to be might be the smallest as well. No, they are almost the smallest. The Travelers companies is smaller than them, but not by much as far as market cap. But if Nike, let's just say, wanted to have more influence on the DJIA for whatever stupid reason, what they could do is do a reverse stock split, where maybe you might make it a 5-to-1 reverse split. So it means that every 5 shares only becomes 1 share, and it condenses down, but the share price goes up 5 times as well, right? So this is why I don't like price-weighted indexes like the Dow Jones, because it's easy for a company to manipulate its own influence on that particular index just by virtue of doing reverse stock splits, or maybe even regular stock splits too, okay? So that's the big thing here. Now, I have them sorted by market cap right now, so as you see here. And the other thing here to keep in mind is how much total impact on the S&P 500 do these DJIA stocks have? I can come over here. You won't be able to see it down here, but it is 31.76% of the market cap for the S&P 500. So these 30 stocks have 100% of the influence on the Dow Jones Industrial Average's performance, but they only have 31.76% of the S&P 500's performance. Okay, so that means almost 70% of the rest of the S&P 500 also has a role in there. So, and more than twice as much influence on, basically on the S&P 500 by the stocks that are not even in the Dow Jones. So here's the other problem I have with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It is what I like to call a bastardized index. And what I mean by that is it no longer serves the purpose that it was originally designed for. Okay, so every stock gets categorized into what you call the Global Industry Classification System, or GICS, or GICS, as I like to call it for short. And it's basically a family tree, basically, of stocks with where they fit within the broader economy. Okay, so you got 11 different sectors. Let's just say consumer discretionary is one, consumer staples is another. So you're important, like your grocery stores and your healthcare stores and whatever kind of stuff. Then you got communication services, financials, energy, materials, tech sector, industrials, so on and so on. Okay, so those are 11 different sectors. Now, when the DJIA came around, it was originally only an index for industrial sector stocks. It was not designed to have anything but industrial sector stocks in it. Dow Jones actually has a number of other stock indexes that track each of those specific sectors. Like they could have a real estate index, or they could have a financials index, they could have an energy index, whatever. And all it does is track companies within that energy sector. Okay, and Dow Jones Industrial Average was originally designed to do exactly that, track industrial sector stocks. So riddle me this. So coming back to my spreadsheet here, let's take a look at these stocks here. We got only, how many are industrial sector stocks? Only 4 of them. We got 6 tech sector stocks in here, 4 healthcare, 5 financials, 1 energy, 3 consumer staples, 4 consumer discretionaries, and 2 communication services, plus 1 material sector. Does that sound anything at all like a stock index that is tracking the industrial sector specifically? No, it's not in the least bit. So for that reason, I question what's the real point of the DJIA anymore if it doesn't serve the original purpose that it was designed to serve, which is just to track industrial sector stocks. You see there, it now tracks a broader variety of stocks. So why are we calling it industrial average and not some Dow Jones economic average, or why not call it the Dow Jones total, like large cap total stock market index? Because that's all it does is track large cap stocks and more of a total stock market, if anything. But now even that can be, it's a bit of a problem, and this is a good time to segue into, well, what does TSP S Fund follow if it's not the DJIA? Okay, here's the problem. Everybody has a tendency to see that Dow Jones name in the index that S Fund follows, and they automatically assume that it is Dow Jones Industrial Average. No, it's not. It is entirely different. Not even remotely close to the same. All right, so a little side story here. How many of you guys have seen the movie My Cousin Vinny? All right, I love that movie. At the very end of that movie, you get that pivotal scene there, or whatever epic scene that Marissa Tomei probably got an Oscar for, got her Oscar for that movie for. There is that part of that where she's testifying, where you know the Pontiac Tempest, if I remember right, can't possibly be confused for a Corvette, but the Pontiac Tempest and whatever that other Pontiac model car was, which they had basically the same colors, same wheelbase, same tire sizes and types and all that kind of crap, but were two different cars that were just similar looking. This is kind of the same thing. Okay, it's kind of a similar thing here. Basically, when you see Dow Jones, it's just a name brand. It doesn't. You're like trying to compare a model to a brand. Let's make it something a little more modern here. Would you ever confuse a Ford Mustang with a Ford F-150? No, you can't possibly confuse the two. One's a full-size pickup, and the other is a sports car. Okay, they are not even remotely close to the same, but they both happen to be made by Ford. This is exactly what is the case between the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the index that the S Fund follows on TSP. Okay, TSP follows an index called the Dow Jones U.S. Total Completion Index, or Total Stock Market Index, whichever you want to call it. It uses the stock symbol DWCPF. And that index covers the entire total U.S. stock market minus the S&P 500 stocks. And because I mentioned all the Dow Jones Industrial Average stocks are in the S&P 500, that also means that it excludes the DJIA stocks as well. Okay, and the index that S Fund follows has over 3,000 stocks in it, not 30. Okay, not even remotely close to the same. The only thing they have in common is the brand name. They're both Dow Jones basically Dow Jones stocks or indexes. Right, and actually, Standard & Poor's actually handles both the S&P indexes and the Dow Jones indexes. All right, so please do not try to confuse them with each other. Just because you see Dow Jones in the name doesn't mean the first thing about it being having anything to do with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's very common to run into people on the Facebook groups who mistakenly believe that the S Fund follows the DJIA. I want to reiterate, no, it does not. Okay, so. That said, though, I hopefully you got kind of an idea. I know I didn't really go straight into why does Dow Jones perform differently than the S&P 500 as far as direction sometimes. Well, there you go here. Because it's a price-weighted index and only has 30%, a little over 30% influence on the S&P 500. You can have all the stocks in the DJIA going down, but everybody else in the S&P 500 that is not in the DJIA going up. And you're going to get a positive performance at S&P 500 on the same day that your DJIA is going to go down, or vice versa. Okay, so that would explain it. Hope you guys got some good info. Got some useful info out of this. I'm going to sit there and sulk over the Dodgers loss otherwise, and hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Happy Father's Day again, and we'll see you guys this coming week.